Hello guys, how are you all? So welcome to my channel, Cracking IELTS 9.0. So today I am back with a new passage. The passage says conquering Earth's space junk problem, right? So on the left hand side, you can see the passage. We have sections from A to F, and on the right side, you have questions. Okay, so the first set of questions is 27 to 31. It is like matching the information. Okay. And the next set is fill in the blanks. And the next set is matching. So please watch the video till the end, guys. I'll be revealing a lot of tips and tricks for you so that it would be easy for you to crack this test. So yes, let's not waste any time and start with the question 27. Okay. Before that, it says which section contains the following information, right? So this is like matching. You have to read all these questions from 27 to 31 and you have to match which paragraph has this information, right? So for these type of questions, I have a technique here, okay? See, if you read the question number 27 and then you go to all the paragraphs from A to F, then like it might waste a lot of time, right? Reading each and every question, going back to the paragraph will waste a lot of time. So I don't want to do that. Okay. So I want you guys to follow my technique. That is, read the paragraph first and then come to the questions. Okay. For example, I will read the paragraph A and then I'll come to the questions 27 to 31 and I'll check whether A is matching with any of the questions or not. Okay. If A is matching, then I'll write it. Then I'll go to B. I'll read the paragraph B and I'll check with all these questions. So that will make it easy for me, right? That will be very easy and it will save a lot of time. So that's my first trick, guys. So let's do that and read paragraph A, okay? So last year, commercial companies, military and civil departments, and amateurs sent more than 400 satellites into the orbit, over 4 times the yearly average in the previous decade. Okay. Now, numbers could rise even more sharply if leading space companies follow through on plans to deploy hundreds to thousands of large constellations of satellites to space in the next few years. Okay. Right. So, all that traffic can lead to disaster. Now, 10 years ago, a US commercial Iridium satellite smashed into an inactive Russian communication satellite called Cosmos 2251. Okay, now creating thousands of new pieces of space shrapnel that now threaten other satellites in the low Earth orbit. The zone stretching up to 2,000 kilometers in altitude. Okay, so altogether, there are roughly 20,000 human-made objects in the orbit, from working satellites to small rocket pieces, and satellite operators can't steer away from every potential crash because each move consumes time and fuel that could otherwise be used for the spacecraft's main job. Okay, now we have understood and read paragraph A. So let's check out the questions now. Now, a reference to the corporation that takes place to try and minimize the risk. Okay. So did we read anything about any corporation or any company here? I don't think so. Then an explanation of a person's aims. Okay. So in this paragraph, we did not read about any particular person and his aims, right? So I don't think 28 is also matching. Then a description of a major collision that occurred in space. Okay. Major collision. I think, yes, we read something about this, right? What is that? See, 10 years ago, US commercial satellite smashed into inactive Russian satellite. Smashing means collision, obviously, right? So, yes, creating thousands of new pieces of space shrapnel that now threaten other satellites in low Earth orbit, right? Yes. So, yep, 29 is exactly A. Yes. So, we have it. So, 29 should be A, guys. So, I'll write A here. Okay. Yep. So, we got one answer. Good. Now, let's move to the next paragraph, that is B, and try to answer something. Okay. So, concern about space junk goes back to the beginning of the satellite era. But the number of objects in orbit is rising so rapidly that researchers are investigating new ways of attacking the problem. Okay. Several teams are trying to improve methods for assessing what is in the orbit so that satellite operators can work more efficiently in ever more crowded space. Okay. Now, some researchers are now starting to compile a massive data set that includes the best possible information on where everything is in the orbit. Okay. Others are developing taxonomies of space debris, working on measuring properties such as the shape and size of an object, so that satellite operators know how much to worry about what's coming their way. Okay. The alternative is unthinkable. Okay. Just a few uncontrolled space crashes could generate enough debris to set off a runway cascade of fragments, rendering near space unusable. If we go on like this, we will reach a point of no return, says Caroline, an astrodynamical researcher at Purdue University in the West Lafayette, Indiana. Okay, now we got a name of one guy, Caroline, or maybe a female. So we need to remember, guys, when you read a paragraph, you need to remember, if especially if they have any names, okay? Because if you see on your right hand side, we have matching here, right? And we have list of people. So we have some authors here. So we have to match who has said what in the next question. So we have to remember, okay? That's why we have to remember this one and what they did. If we go on like this, we will reach a point of no return. So please try to remember whatever you are reading, okay? Now let's match B with here. Now, a reference to a corporation that takes place. Did we read about any corporation? No. An explanation of a person's aims. Did we read about any aim or goal or any objective? No. A comparison between tracking objects in space and efficiency of a transportation system. Mm, I don't think we read about any comparison here, right? Now, next, a reference to efforts to classify space junk. Okay. Any classification we read about? Efforts to classify the space junk? I think yes. Why? See, several teams are trying to improve methods for assessing what is in the orbit. Means they're trying to classify so that the satellite operators can work more efficiently. This is the first one. See, some researchers are now starting to compile a massive data set that includes the possible information on where everything is. Okay, this is one classification. And others are trying to develop taxonomies of space debris, working on measuring properties such as the shape and size of an object, so that satellite operators know how much to worry about what's coming their way. Okay, so yeah, this is some researchers are trying to compile the data set, and also others are trying for taxonomies. So these are the two classifications. A reference to efforts to classify the space junk. Yes, that B is exactly matching with 31. So I think this should be B. Okay. Now, next. Let's move to the next paragraph, that is C now. Okay. Okay, let's read C and try to match with the given questions. Okay. So even as our ability to monitor space object increases, so too does the total number of items in the orbit. That means companies, governments, and other players in space are collaborating in new ways to avoid a shared threat. Okay. International groups such as Interagency Space Debris Coordination Committee have developed guidelines on space sustainability. Okay, so here we got the name of the organization. Okay, those include inactivating satellites at end of their useful life by venting pressurized materials or leftover fuel that might lead to explosions. Okay, the intergovernmental groups also advise lowering satellites deep enough into atmosphere that they will burn up or disintegrate with 25 years. But so far, only about half of all missions have abided by this 25-year goal, says Holger Krag, head of the European Space Agency's Space Debris Office in Germany. Operators of the planned large constellations of satellites say they will be responsible stewards in their enterprises in space. But Krag worries that problems could increase despite their best intentions. What happens to those that fail or go bankrupt, he says. They are probably not going to spend money to remove their satellites from space. Okay, right. So, yes, let's read this. A reference to corporation that takes place to try and minimize the risk? Yes. What is this corporation? This one. Interagency Space Debris Coordination Committee. Yes, so they are giving guidelines on space sustainability. Yes, a reference to them has come here. So, yes, 27 should be C, guys. Okay. And yeah. Mm, yep, let's move. Let's move to the next one. D. What is the D? In theory, given the vastness of space, satellite operators should have plenty of room for all these missions to fly safely without ever nearing another object. So, some scientists are tracking the problem of space junk by trying to find out where all the debris is to a higher degree of precision. That would alleviate the need for many of the unnecessary maneuvers that are carried out to avoid potential collisions. If you knew precisely where everything was, you would almost never have a problem, says Marlon, a space debris specialist at the Aerospace Corporation, California. Okay, right. So, yep, let's match it with the remaining questions. An explanation of a person's aims. Okay. So, we read about this person, Marlon. Okay. But did he talk about his aim? If you know precisely where everything was, you never have a problem. He did not talk about his goals or aims here, right? So, yes, D is not matching. Then, a comparison between tracking objects in space and efficiency of a transportation system. So, did we read about any comparison here with the objects in space and a transportation system? I don't think so, guys. So, D is not matching with these. Okay. So, let's move to the next one, E. The field is called space traffic management because it's similar to managing traffic on the roads or in the air. Think about a busy day at an airport, says Moriba Jha, an astrodynamicist at the University of Texas at Austin. Planes line up in the sky, landing and taking off close to one another in a carefully choreographed routine. Air traffic controllers know the location of the planes down to 1 meter in accuracy. The same can be said for space debris. Not all objects in orbit are known, and even those included in databases are not tracked consistently. Okay, now here, guys, see here they are comparing. See, here they are comparing the space traffic with the air traffic, the plane, right? Planes line up in the sky, landing and taking happens, okay? Air traffic controls location of the planes, but space debris location cannot be accurate. That's what. So here they are comparison. So a comparison between tracking objects in space and the efficiency of a transportation system. Yes, E. In E, they are comparing. So yes, this one is easy. So this should be E, guys. Okay. Now let's move to the last one. That is F. Okay. An additional problem is that there is no authoritative catalog that accurately lists the orbits of all known space debris. Jha illustrates this with a web-based database that he has developed. It draws on several sources such as catalogs maintained by the US and Russian governments to visualize where objects are in the space. When he types in an identifier for a particular space object, the database draws a purple line to designate its orbit. Only this doesn't quite work for a number of objects such as Russian rocket body designated in the database as object number 32280. When Jha enters that number, database draws two purple lines. The US and Russian sources contain two completely different orbits for the same object. Jha says that it is almost impossible to tell which is correct unless a third source of information made it possible to cross correlate. Okay. Now, Jha describes himself as a space environmentalist. I want to make space a place that is safe to operate, that is free and useful for the generations to come. Until that happens, the space community will continue devolving into a tragedy in which all space flight operators are polluting a common resource. Okay, now here he is talking about his aim, goal, right? I want to make space a place that is safe to operate. This is his aim, free and useful for the generations to come. Until that happens, it devolves into a tragedy. Now, yes, Ja here he's talking about the aim, an explanation of person's aim. Who's that person? Ja, right? Now, yes, F is exactly matching here. So we got one answer, that is F. Okay. So yes, these are the answers for this section. Let's move on to the next section, that is fill in the blanks. Here we have to use only one word. Okay. Now this is about the Interagency Space Debris Coordination Committee. I think we read about that somewhere here, somewhere in the paragraph C, right? Here. Okay. Now this will be about them. So let's read this and try to answer these questions, right? Now, the committee gives advice on how the dash of space can be achieved. Okay. Now, let's read this paragraph again. See, international groups such as the Interagency Committee have developed guidelines on space sustainability. Okay. Those include inactivating satellites at the end of their useful life by venting the pressurized materials or leftover fuel. Okay. So what is this? Committee gives advice on how the dash of space can be achieved. How to dash of space? Space sustainability. Okay. They have developed guidelines on space sustainability. So committee gives advice on how the sustainability of space can be achieved. Yes. So this is a direct answer. Sustainability. Okay. Right. Then the committee advises that when satellites are no longer active, any unused dash or pressurized material. So the keyword is this one, unused something or pressurized material that could cause dash should be removed. Unused is the keyword, guys. So this one we have to match. See, those include inactivating satellites at the end of their useful life by venting the pressurized material. See, pressurized material is here exactly, or leftover fuel that might lead to explosions. Leftover means unused, right? Leftover fuel. So unused fuel or a pressurized material that could cause dash should be removed. That might lead to explosions. See, that might lead to explosions. It should be removed. So this one should be unused fuel, right? And what should be this one then? Explosions, right? that could cause explosion should be removed. Okay. Now, although operators of large satellite constellations accept that they have obligations as stewards of space, Holger Krag points out that the operators that become dash are unlikely to prioritize removing their satellites from space. Okay, so let's read further. Okay. Now, the intergovernmental groups also advise lowering satellites deep enough into atmosphere. So he's talking about Holder Crack points out that operators that become dead are unlikely to remove their satellites. Okay. Now here he spoke about the Holger Crack. Now, operators of the planned large constellations of satellites say they will be responsible stewards in their enterprises in space. But Craig worries the problem could increase despite their best intentions. What happens to those that fail or go bankrupt? Okay, they are probably not going to spend money to remove their satellites from space. They are unlikely to prioritize removing their satellites from space. So this is exactly matching here. This one is like paraphrased. Now, what happens to those that fail or go bankrupt? So points out that the operators that become bankrupt are unlikely to remove their satellites from space. Okay. So I think this answer should be bankrupt. Okay. Yes. So this is now let's move to the next question, guys. That is 36 to 40. And this is like match each statement with the correct person. This is also matching here. Okay. So you have four authors and whatever they said in the paragraph. And also you have a hint here, guys. Okay. This is note. You may use any letter more than once. Okay. I already told you in many of my previous videos that whenever you see this, something is going to repeat itself. Okay. Any one of the other is going to repeat. This is for sure. Okay. Whenever you get this hint, just keep that in mind. Okay. Now, let's answer this. Knowing the exact location of space junk would help prevent any possible danger. Who said this? Tell me, guys. I have read it somewhere definitely, but who said this? Knowing the exact location. He is talking about the exact location. I think I read it somewhere here. If Holger, is it Holger? They're probably not going to spend money to remove their satellites from space. Or is it this one? See, if you knew precisely where everything was, you would almost never have a problem. Marlon, this guy said it, okay? So, knowing the exact location of space junk would help prevent any possible danger. So, yes, this is Marlon. What is Marlon's C? So, this should be C, guys, okay? Mhm. And space should be available to everyone and should be preserved for the future. Okay, who said this? Tell me, guys. You should also apply your brains and tell me the answers. You should also be active. I'm giving time to you just for you to find out. Okay. Yes, I think I have read it in the ending. See, Ja, what did he say? I want to make space a place that is safe to operate, free and useful to generations to come. Means available to everyone and should be preserved for the future. Who said Ja? Ja means D, right? So here you should write D. Now let's read the next one, 38. A recommendation regarding satellites is widely ignored. Okay, he is talking about something that is ignored, widely ignored, and a recommendation regarding satellites. Okay, let's read something about this. I think, is it Ja? No, he did not talk about anything that is ignored. Okay, is it something here? Something told by Marlon. If you knew precisely where everything was, you would never have a problem. Okay, I think that is not this. Let's go in reverse way. Is it Holger? See, the intergovernmental groups also advise lowering satellites deep enough into the atmosphere that they will burn up or disintegrate within the 25 years. But so far, only about half of all missions have abided by this 25-year goal, says Holger. Okay, so they have declared, they have recommended something, but he says only half of all the missions have abided by, means they have ignored it, right? Half of them they have abided by it, and half of them they have ignored it. This is a 25-year goal. Okay, that's what he says. So yes, I think a recommendation regarding satellite it is widely ignored. Means this one, half people they are abiding by this goal, half of them they are ignoring. So it is told by Holger. Holger means B. Yes. So this should be B. Okay, next. There is conflicting information about where some satellites are in space. Okay, I think we read about this. Yes, yes, yes. I can remember, guys, because see, guys, whatever I am reading, I am trying to remember. That's why I can go directly to the paragraph or the person. That's why it is easy for me to track down wherever it is information. So I think I read something about some purple lines, right? Single line, double purple lines. So that's what I'm getting in the mind. So there is conflicting information. I think I read it here somewhere, right? See, when Jaw enters that number, the database draws two purple lines. The US and Russian sources contain two completely different orbits of the same object. Jaw says that it is almost impossible to tell which is correct unless a third source of information made it possible. So there is a conflicting information about where satellites are in space because here you should get only one orbit, right? But here, when you enter the number, you are getting two orbits, which is like controversial, which is impossible to track which one is correct, right? So there is some conflicting information. So hence it is Jha who told. So D. So D comes one more time. Okay, so it is D. Okay. Next one. There is a risk we will not be able to undo the damage that occurs in space. Okay, we will not able to undo. Yes, I have read it somewhere. Who was that? There is a no point of return. Someone told it, right? So look at in paragraph B, guys. So if we go on like this, we will reach a point of no return, says Caroline. There is a risk we will not be able to undo. Means we cannot return from a point damage that occurs in space. So yes, this is matching. So 40 should be Caroline, which is A. Okay. So yes, So yes, guys, that is the end of today's video. I hope it is useful for everyone. I hope you have followed my tips and tricks. If you like the video, please like, share, and subscribe my content. And also, please share this with your friends who are trying to crack the IELTS test. Thank you so much. Let's meet again in some another video some other time. Okay. Thank you.